Cancer is all about depth and security. Because Cancer is so good with deep things, it has great, powerful motivations, and it is excellent in confidentiality. But then again, motivation can turn into opinionation, and confidentiality can turn into inscrutability. Now, because Cancer is so good with security, it's extremely prudent, and it is excellent at nurturing. But on the other hand, prudence can turn into phobia, and nurturing can turn into smothering. So what we've done here with Cancer is identified 4 symbolic themes, and we've polarized each theme into a positive and a negative version. Each sign is kind of like a musical instrument. So take, for example, a guitar. A guitar sounds like a guitar no matter what, but it sounds quite different depending on how you play it. Similarly with rising signs, each sign has basic symbolism, but leaves us with the question of how this symbolism will be utilized by this particular chart for this particular person. So how do we know how the instrument of Cancer is going to be played? Is it going to be producing all of these positive polarities of these 4 themes, or is it going to be producing the negative polarities? Well, to know that, you need to know the positivity of Cancer in your chart. At the end of this video, I'll explain how you figure out that dignity. For now, I want to just mention that I just released a new report, which will sort out all the dignity for you and give you an exact balance for your rising sign of how much of the positive traits are versus how much of the negative traits. For now, let's just take a closer look at Cancer and what we're really talking about here with these 4 themes. So first of all, I said that Cancer is excellent with depths. It's very deep and it's very good with deep things. And the first ramification of that is if you're very deep, you have very strong, deeply rooted motivations. They're almost like your instincts are very strong. So Cancer does not have superficial feelings. It doesn't have easy feelings. Like the feelings don't come easy and they don't go easy. They come deeply and they stay deeply. And as a result of that, Cancer has very profound and enduring preferences and opinions about what's right and what's wrong and what it wants and what it doesn't want. So it develops very strong instincts to take care of the things that are important. And this is the main reason why this sign is famous as being parental and especially mothering, because it has that instinctual drive to preserve and take care of the things that it loves. On the flip side of this, motivation, opinions, and all that stuff, it could become kind of negative in a sense of being very, very opinionated. So, and this is something that could confuse people a lot about Cancer because it's stereotypically a very emotional sign. Like I just explained, it has very deep emotions. But because it's deeply emotional, it's not superficially emotional, it might seem cold and non-emotional because it's not really being forthcoming with its opinions and its feelings. It's protecting them and nurturing them and keeping them inside. Yet it's very, very, very profoundly affected by them. So it has these very strong opinions. Also on the theme of depth, the confidentiality of Cancer is unsurpassable, which is what produces that whole dynamic of Cancer being profoundly emotional, yet somehow somewhat distant. It's because these feelings are so deep that they're kept private. Cancer keeps things private. Cancer keeps things safe. Cancer keeps things hidden because they're valuable. If you have a secret that you want to stay a secret, but you need to tell somebody, a Cancer ascendant would be a good candidate. And if you want to learn a secret, you're probably not going to be able to learn it from a Cancer ascendant. But that is the very thing that makes Cancer difficult in a sense. If Cancer is not positive in an individual's chart, then this confidentiality will instead start to work against the Cancer native. Meaning they become inaccessible. They're emotionally distant, actually. Isn't it odd? Cancer, which is the most deeply emotional sign, also has the greatest tendency to be emotionally distant. It's because the depth of the emotion makes it so personal and therefore makes it so private. And it's not that easy for other people to connect with it. So the more that Cancer is negative in a person's chart, the more confusing that person is to other people. It causes a rift in personal relationships. Now, on the other hand, Cancer is all about security. And because of that, it's extremely prudent. It's very well prepared. Cancer thinks ahead. Cancer plans ahead. Especially Cancer thinks about what are the dangers that are involved in doing X or Y or Z. And am I prepared to deal with those dangers should I encounter them? And before setting out on the journey, Cancer will make sure that it's prepared. This is another reason why Cancer is an archetypical mother, because that's archetypically what mothers do. Cancer is also great as an advisor, like a mothering role for any type of a leader. But the downside of all this prudence and preparation, if Cancer is negative, it can start to work against you. And you can try to, you just over prepare. You don't need to be that prepared. You can handle some things on the spur of the moment. Some things are not that dangerous, or the danger is so unlikely that it's not worth spending all this time and effort and attention on preparing for it. So often what happens in negative Cancer charts is the natives start to develop counterproductive phobias and anxieties about things that they don't really need to worry about. These are impractical fears. And this can also compound the nature of Cancer to be socially withdrawn, because all these social interactions have all these different mistakes you can make. And so they require so much preparation that can lead to so much anxiety as well. Finally, because Cancer is so good with security, it is excellent at nurturing things that need to be protected. That's the forte of Cancer. It is the perfect parent. It's the perfect mother if it's positive in a chart. If you have something that's fragile, give it to a Cancer ascendant. They'll take care of it. So if you have a child, a Cancer ascendant can take care of that child well. On the other hand, if Cancer is negative, then this same tendency to be nurturing will be overdone. Just give me a little space. I'll be okay if I take a little risk. I'm not going to break if I go out in the sun without sunscreen. The dependence of a negative Cancer ascendant native can easily feel smothered and confined by that native. And the native themselves suffers from it as well, because not only are they displeasing the people they love, which is very, very stressful in and of itself, but they're also exhausted by this unnecessary protectiveness. So that's Cancer in a very, very clean nutshell. You want to know whether or not your Cancer is positive or negative, or the Cancer in whatever chart you're interpreting. You want to know whether that's positive or negative so you can know how much to focus on positive traits versus negative traits on these 4 themes. So let me explain a little bit about how to figure that out. Sign dignity is extremely useful for interpreting the houses, especially the first house, the rising sign. And you can also use it to interpret the dignity of any house that sign creates in any of the subdivisions as well, which is what I do in my report in the subdivisions module. So without going into too much explicit, mentally exhausting detail, here is basically how you figure out sign dignity. First of all, there's 2 things you need to know. You need to know the overall dignity of every planet, and you need to know how much aspect each planet is giving to each sign. And once you know those 2 things, you have 4 steps. You take the overall dignity of a planet and you multiply it by the percentage of aspect that the planet has on a sign. And that's how much dignity that planet is contributing to that sign. And by aspect, I also mean conjunction. However, when you do this, exclude the ascendant lord and exclude the sign's lord itself, because those will be handled separately. Then when you have that tally of the dignity contributed from the aspects of all the planets to a sign, you add to that the dignity of the sign's lord. And you average it with a weight that makes the sign's lord's dignity twice as important as the aspects from the other planets. Then you're halfway done. You got 2 more steps. Now we want to deal with the sign's lord and the first lord, whose influence is always positive. So just get the amount of aspect or conjunction from the sign's lord and the first lord to this particular sign that you're evaluating, and average them up with such a weighting that the sign's lord is twice as important as the first lord's. Now you're 3/4 of the way done. There's just one more step. You take the value that you got in step 3 and you average it with the value that you got before in step 2 in a weighting that makes step 2's 4 times more significant. Now the easiest way to do all this is to get it done for you in my new report. So to get this report for your birth chart, go to my website, vicdecara.com. Click on the readings section. At the top, you'll see this new report that has different modules you can include. Select whichever modules you want to include, at least the basic one. Then just click this to enter your birth data. And then after the birth data is entered, just click the buy button. So I highly recommend that. And also, please don't forget to like this video and leave a comment on it so that YouTube knows it's a good video and it should be shown to other people. Thank you so much.